And joining us right now, making a wonderful return to the Farzy show from Inside the Birds podcast and about a billion other things as well. Adam Caplan joins the show. What's going on, Adam?
Mark, good to be with you as we're getting close to kickoff here. Yeah, it's week 2, man. Week 2 is here. This NFL season starts rolling along.
Yeah, I listened to Nick Sirianni earlier at the time we aired this, earlier yesterday, I should say. And he was talking about how it's almost a benefit to have a game on Thursday night this early in the season. Do you buy into that because of wear and tear? He pointed out wear and tear. Yeah. Easy to recover now when you have the rest of the season and all that stuff, a little bit of a longer layover there. Do you buy into that philosophy?
Sure. I mean, if of course, you'd rather choose now than week 15 when you're exhausted. That's one of the big reasons why the Eagles over the past few seasons have been relatively uninjured, and they had all 22 stars in the Super Bowl, is because they don't practice very much, and they've found a way through sports science, which I do believe works. Anybody can get hurt at any time. We know that, but they've had a lot of good luck on their side, and they do it differently than most other teams. They just don't practice very much, and they don't practice their veterans very much. And if you had a choice of having this type of schedule, you like to have it now before they're worn down. They're much more worn down late in the season, but also with sports science, Mark, players will tell you, as they've told me over the years, they feel fairly fresh as fresh as you're going to be late in the season. But the fact of the matter is, again, to sum this up here, is certainly if you had your choice, you'd rather do it now. I would agree with that.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Next up, let's talk about the injuries that the Eagles do have right now. Reed Blankenship, Kenny Gainwell, long-term, a guy like Nakobe Dean. Where do you think the Eagles are right now on the injury front? How serious are these injuries?
Yeah. So with Dean, we'd report on Inside the Birds. We were told it's a sprained foot. Mosher said it was 4 weeks he had hurt, and they put him on IR, which means you have to miss at least 4 games. So he'll miss at least that. Hopefully, when they get to the 5th game, he'll be okay. We'll see. But look, they're not good linebacker to begin with. This situation makes them super thin at that position, and they're just going to have to get through it. Blankenship's, it was a really odd one with his rib injury. He came right back after leaving for a play. It looked like by video he got kicked or something where he got friendly fire with something into his chest. We'll see what happens. We'll see how they list him. But the fact of the matter is that shouldn't be too bad. And then Gainwell, look, he got way too much work. They didn't work in, for some odd reason, they didn't work DeAndre Swift in, which was a mistake. Boston Scott, they didn't either. We've outlined, Mark, for 3 years how much this staff loves Kenny Gainwell, and that's fine. But he's not an every down back. They need to work another back or two in there, and that needs to happen on Thursday night.
So does Rashad Penny obviously get called up there? Well, first of all, do you expect Gainwell? He has to. Okay. Do you expect Gainwell or Blankenship to play on Thursday?
I don't. As we're speaking here now, we don't even have their injury report yet, so I'm not sure. Mm-hmm. But the fact of the matter is, neither injury is serious, to answer your question. But I'm always concerned with injuries and running backs. I would be shocked if Rashad Penny's not active for this game. He should have played anyway. You need Penny's size at that position at running back. It's kind of like, why did you sign the guy? And I get it, what Sirianni said on Monday. You typically only have 3 backs up. It's rare that you have 4 usually for special teams, if one guy's only special teams. But nevertheless, Penny is an explosive back. He's also the back with the most size, and he should have been up.
Okay. So I've heard that the Eagles just weren't that impressed with his training camp and preseason, whatever. Have you heard otherwise, that he could still
be I wouldn't say that. Yeah, I know that narrative's out there, but that's not what I was told. So it's just that Scott plays special teams, Penny does not. Swift has a specific role, and Gainwell's their grinder. But my point was, okay, but Penny's bigger physically. Why can't they share first and second down carries? That was my point. I don't quite understand Sirianni's thought process there. Now, because as we said on Inside the Birds this week, Kentavious Street played very, very little. He didn't play on special teams. So did you really need 6 defensive tackles up for that game? Why not, where you struggled to move the football with explosive plays, Mark? The big issue against New England was the lack of explosive plays. And clearly, Penny should have played, but we'll see what happens.
All right. I am seeing all the takes out there. After one game, and it's a short turnaround, so I'm glad we get to turn the page quickly. But all the takes are out there regarding Jalen Hurts. They're going to depend on him more in the passing game, and he didn't rise to the occasion against the Patriots. The Eagles, are you worried about the offensive and defensive coordinators after one game? It's like people are really, really jumping to conclusions after week 1 against New England on the road, and obviously starters didn't play in the preseason. Where are you at when it comes to legitimate concerns for this Eagles team going forward into week 2?
Yeah, Mark, I would look at it this way. We called it right on Inside the Birds. We said it would be a bad, choppy game. It was. We both gave odd scores. The Eagles also had the game was 25-20, which is weird enough to have 25 points. We just thought it would not be a good game for them offensively. It wasn't. It was choppy. It was sloppy, as Brian Johnson called. I don't think Brian Johnson had a great game. I'm not. We've seen people saying he's in over his head. We said before the game, Belichick is the hardest to prepare for in NFL history as a defensive coordinator. That's what happened. It's week 1. That's just the way it is. Now, if against Minnesota he's like this, then I have a problem because this matchup is way better. I know that Brian Flores is running his version of Belichick's scheme, but it's only their second week running it. It's not going to be. He's not going to be getting it this early. They're not going to be great this early. They're playing the Vikings at the right time. And Garrett Bradbury, by the way, their starting center's out for Minnesota, so the offensive line's banged up. A lot of the positiveness of what's going on both sides of the ball for both teams, a lot of it points very well for the Eagles bouncing back offensively, in particular this week.
Mm-hmm. All right, now when it comes to the coordinators, would you say that Brian Johnson had more struggles than Sean Desai in week 1 and has to bounce back from that?
Yeah, I think it's fair. Yeah, I think it's accurate. Yeah, but again, it's week 1, and it was exactly what I thought would happen. I thought the offense would not do well. It didn't. They only had 18 offensive points, and quite frankly, without Jake Elliott, I'm sure they would have lost. Jake Elliott was incredible. Look, you'd rather him not have to kick so many field goals. He was great. And look, the first half, I get the rain. It was bad for both sides. But the execution was poor. The lack of usage of Swift in the pass game was not smart. That was bad. They had some offensive line protection issues. It just was not a good offensive performance. But Sirianni's a terrific coach, and I expect him to bounce back this week.
On an optimistic note, how optimistic should I be about the Eagles' pass rush against that Minnesota Vikings offensive line?
Yeah, very well. I think they'll do very well. I'd be stunned if they don't pressure Kirk Cousins. You saw what happened last year on that Monday night game in week 2. Strangely, it's here in Philly, Thursday Night Football. Yeah, I don't expect him to struggle at all. I think they'll get to him, and he's not very mobile, by the way. He'll scramble and inside the 5. Sometimes he runs, but remember now, no Dalvin Cook. So they're going to have trouble moving the football. Now, Justin Jefferson, it's not going to be easy. I know they did a great job against him last year. But with James Bradbury and his injury, you're going to have Josh Jobe in there. We'll see how he holds up.
Yeah, and what's your confidence level in Josh Jobe and how the Eagles are going to defend against Justin?
Yeah, look, this is his first ever NFL start. Not a fast guy. There's some character concerns with him is the reason why I was told that he wasn't drafted last year. But you know what? He's answered the bell. He's done a great job so far. And here we go. First ever NFL start. The depth is severely tested. We'll have to see. They're going to go at him. Kevin O'Connell's a good play caller, their head coach, and I'm sure they'll go at him. We'll see how he holds up.
Jalen Carter, hype train. I am all aboard that. It's everything I needed to see from Jalen Carter in week 1. How about you? Yeah,
he's great. Everything off the field so far we've heard is good. So because that's why so many teams passed on him in the top 10, and so many teams would have passed on him had he not gone the Eagles. So bottom line is, so far so good. He was dominant. It wasn't just a couple flash plays which fans get carried away with. It was actually the entire game. He brought it. No team in the National Football League has better depth than the Eagles. They're legit 6 deep. Because Marlon Tuipulotu has been hurt a lot in his career. Is healthy. He had a good camp. So he's going to contribute as a backup nose. Jordan Davis looks better than he did last season. Milton Williams started at end the last game. He's a good football player. So things are going on here, Mark. They're D-line. They got it going on here, and I expect them to do very well in this game.
I want to move to the edge rusher position, especially a guy like Hassan Reddick, the outside linebacker, whatever you want to call it. Man, one thing about watching that Minnesota Vikings game is the outside linebackers, they were getting in the backfield left and right. It wasn't just because of the defensive line. It was what they're doing at the linebacker position. So if you add those things up, could this be another big game, a breakout game, week 2 here for Hassan Reddick to, as they like to say, announce his presence with authority?
Sure. Yeah, no doubt. Now the thing with Reddick is he did get by the tackles. The problem is he's got his hand wrapped, that surgically repaired right thumb. Mm-hmm. So it's just an adjustment. He's not had to play like this before. So this is being adjustment. The great thing is without Garrett Bradbury, if you're an Eagles fan, and obviously if you're watching, you probably are, without Bradbury, they're going to go with Austin Schlottman, I believe, is sort of a journeyman backup guard center. He's a downgrade. they're not very good in the offensive line. Darisol's hurt, their left tackle. So they're off. Their defensive line should eat in this game. I'm expecting them to dominate, to be honest with you.
Sounds fantastic. One more thing about the offense. Dallas Goedert getting the one target, and it was overthrown, and then he wasn't even seen when he was wide open.
Sure.
From your experience around the NFL, is this something that they're going to make it a point to get him the football, big part of the game plan early, get him involved, or is this something that, like Nick Sirianni said in his press conference, is going to be something that you just have to wait for the flow of the game?
Look, there were some missed passes the fans saw in the fourth quarter, no doubt, where Hurts wanted to throw a home run ball and it just wasn't there. He made a mistake. But yeah, look, we saw this last year with Devontae Smith where he didn't catch a pass, which is crazy in that Detroit game where the points were crazy indoors at Ford Field. But I expect it. They're not very good in the back end. You know, Harrison Smith, who the Eagles picked on in 2017, 6 years ago in the Super Bowl, he's still there. They should do well, and I expect Goddard to bounce back. And look, this is going to be an ongoing challenge for these coaches. It's a good problem to have. You've got Brown and Smith, and Goddard have to get the football. And Swift in the pass game, we should get the football. He was tremendous in training camp. I'm really looking forward to seeing Brian Johnson, by the way, back really rebound in this game where I don't think he coached real well. But I know the fans are on him. He's not in over his head. Give him time here, folks. It's only one game.
I know I always ask you a basketball question, and
sure.
I know you're up against it when you have some other obligations. But last thing, James Harden. I'll give you an opportunity to not talk football for 30 seconds. James Harden, you want him staying? You want him out? Where are you at with the James Harden sweepstakes?
The problem is this didn't happen during the early part of free agency, so they're kind of stuck. I'd bring him back. He's going to want to ball out. I mean, he has no leverage here. The Sixers have to live with this situation, Mark, to be honest with you. They caused it. Well, I'd say this much. There's obviously a bad miscommunication between the general manager, Daryl Morey, and the player, and it's ugly. The Sixers fans have put up with this crap for years with the issues that the front office and players have had with each other. We don't need this anymore. As a Sixers fan, I'm kind of sick and tired of it. I like Morey a lot, but I know he doesn't want to give him away, and unfortunately, the teams know that he doesn't play good defense. You saw the up and down nature of the Boston game, the Boston series, where he was brilliant and then he was terrible. So who knows? I mean, he's got maybe 2 years left in him. I just feel so bad for Embiid. He deserves much better, and hopefully he gets that.
I'm with you. Adam Caplan, Inside the Birds podcast. Check him out, of course, on Twitter or X as well. Adam, thanks so much, brother.
You got it, man. Thanks.